Well, hello and welcome in again, everyone, to another episode of The Simple Truth. I am your host, Jermaine West, and I'm back with you. Back with you with some more news updates, some very important things that are going on out here in the world today. Bit of news I want to bring to your attention is that I looked at my various news sources that I get, and there was an article on CNN.com. Normally, I'm not one that's big on reading a lot of news reports, but it's the things that point out the importance of what's going on in the community of the world that causes me to take a second glance. And when I take that second glance, I look at it and I say, wow, this is something that's very important. People need to know about it. If they need to pay more attention to what's going on. As you know, there has been a withdrawal of troops out of Iraq, and there's been some news reports that there are going to be a withdrawal of troops out of Afghanistan within probably the next year or so. But as I stated in a previous video, we're coming out of those other campaigns, Iraq and Afghanistan, but for what reason? And many troops have been deployed, UN troops that is, have been deployed to Libya. But you have to understand, when it's UN troops, a great deal of the time, American troops are involved in that deployment as well. And I spoke about there being a mustering of troops for Iran. Well, the world is speaking about this. The world is speaking out clearly. And Iran itself has spoken about the different movement as it is related to American troops or even UN troops. And the article that I have the first article I have, it comes from CNN.com. I will definitely include a link so that you can go directly to these sources so you can see them for yourself. But it says here that Iran's leader, this is the title of the article, was dated February the 3rd, 2012, which is today. And it says, Iran's leader speaking, war would be detrimental to U.S. War would be detrimental to U.S. Tehran, Iran. The supreme leader of Iran issued a blunt warning Friday that war would be detrimental to the United States and that Iran is ready to help anyone who confronts cancerous Israel. You see, every now and then in this way, they say that all options are on the table. That means even the option of war. And this quote comes from the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He said this during a Friday prayer in Tehran. This is how they make these threats against us. Well, these kinds of threats are detrimental to the U.S., he said. The war itself will be 10 times as detrimental to the U.S. Khamenei's rhetoric is hardly new, but the timing of his comments could prove critical with nuclear talks around the corner. Tensions between Iran and the world powers have been ratcheted up in the aftermath of an alarming nuclear watchdog agency report in November that said Tehran was likely developing nuclear weapons. Now, I want to make a point here. This sounds very familiar. Just prior to the going into Iraq many years ago, there was the weapons of mass destruction, which we later on found was a farce. But I'm just kind of drawing the inferences of what's going on out there. It says the standoff grew more serious this week with renewed fears of an Israeli preemptive strike on Iran to take out its suspected nuclear weapons program. Khamenei said Iran will support any nation or group that stands up against Israel. Khamenei is quoted as saying, "The Zionist regime is really the cancerous tumor of this region, and it needs to be removed and will be removed." This is what Khamenei said to a cheering crowd. It said, he said, Iran doesn't interfere in other nations, but has aided militant groups, Hamas and Hezbollah, in conflicts with Israel in Gaza and in Lebanon. His comments came after stern comments Friday from Israeli Defense Minister uh, Ehud Barak. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Quote, "Today, unlike in the past, there is a broad global understanding that it is critical to stop Iran becoming nuclearized and that no options should be taken off the table," he said. That's the defense minister from Israel saying this. Barak said allowing Iran to continue on its path will be far more complex and dangerous in blood and money than cutting it off now. Those who say in English later may find later to is too late, he said. Again, that's Ehud Barak. U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said he feared Israel could attack Iran sometime this spring in an effort to destroy its suspected nuclear weapons program, according to a senior administration official. The official declined to be identified due to the sensitive nature of the information. Awful funny how people won't stand up and just say what actually is. They want to hide in the shadows. Um, the United States and its allies have warned that Iran is trying to make a nuclear weapon. Iran insists that its nuclear program is for civilian energy purposes. A new report from the Bipartisan Policy Center said the United States needs to put more teeth into its threat to use military power against Iran. The Washington think tank recommended in its report that Washington should undertake visible, credible military preparations to go along with more intense sanctions and diplomatic efforts. That's kind of a contradiction of terms if you really think about it. It's first talking about undertake a visible, credible military preparation along with sanctions and diplomatic efforts. You notice it didn't say diplomatic efforts first, then intense sanctions, and then military action and preparation. Kind of putting the cart before the horse. The military activities could include naval deployments, military exercises, and positioning supplies in the region. To stop Iran's nuclear clock, the report said, the United States needs to make clear that Iran faces a choice. It can either abandon its nuclear program through a negotiated arrangement or have its program destroyed militarily by the United States. Now, here's a question. What gives the United States the right to tell a sovereign country and a sovereign nation? Now, I'm not agreeing with any of their religious beliefs or maybe even their social policy, but what gives one country the right to tell another country what they should and shouldn't do? That's almost like a bully in the schoolyard. That the bully, the bigger person, bigger person tells the little person what they should and shouldn't be doing. And isn't it always the practice that bullies, people should stand up against bullies? Just wondering. It says the report also said the United States should give credibility to the Israeli military threat against Iran by selling Israel 2 to 3 KC-135 aerial refueling tankers and 200 GRU-31 bunker buster munitions. Wow. Former Senator Chuck Robb, who co-chaired the task force that wrote the report, said the group advocates neither war nor a military strike at the moment, but believes the United States will only be effective if it takes credible steps to let Iran know it is serious. Pentagon spokesman Captain John Kirby said Panetta has made it clear that he is comfortable with the military capabilities we have and operate in the region. However, Kirby said the United States military must and will be ready to provide the president options should those options be desirable. Khamenei blamed Western powers for Iran's troubles, starting with the brutal 8-year war Iran fought with Saddam Hussein's Iraq in the 1980s and continuing with the latest round of punishing international sanctions. Final quote, so far we have overcome all those challenges and none of them managed to bring Iran to its knees, Khamenei said. We have stood firm and strongly treaded our course. Wow. It just seems to me that we are on a course that may be irreversible, one that will cause the United States to pick a fight with someone that they believe that they will defeat easily, and then it turns out to be something far different. And it is very concerning. It is definitely very concerning, and it is something that we need to pay more attention to, and we need to definitely keep our eye on. Am I saying that we should get out there and carry picket signs and do rallies? That's not my thing. But it is important to be aware of what's going on. It is important to be conscious of what is happening. It's just what it is. I mean, no matter what we believe, what we think, and what we say, the United States military is going to do what they choose to do. And whatever they choose to do, there are going to be civilians that will eventually have to go and carry out the actions that the United States intends to put forth. That could be your son, that could be your daughter, that could be your mother, that could be your father, that could be any relative of yours. So I strongly urge you to keep a watchful eye on what is going on. And most importantly, it's not important about what we can do in the here and now as far as trying to avert something or trying to change something. But the most important thing is that we need to change our way of thinking, change our mind as far as what we believe and how we think. It is strongly important that you get a relationship with the Most High and His Son, Jesus Christ, and that you know that that is the only covering that you can have in any situation. This is just one that is being pointed out of what's going on in our world today. But it is very important that you foster a relationship. You become a commandment keeper. You do honor God's laws and statutes, and that you receive the infilling of the Holy Spirit, and let that be your guide, and let that be your direction as far as the actions you take and the things you do. So with that, this has been another episode of The Simple Truth. And as I always tell you, it is the simple things that are the most profound, but they are also the most difficult to put into practice and to actually do. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be back soon.